And we're going to get out to a great start this morning with a very special panel focusing on an issue that has become extremely important all across the state of Mississippi. And the two issues that will be discussed this morning are regionalism, how areas work together, and workforce development, and making sure that we're putting people in the right place with the right opportunity to be successful in their careers. And we have a wonderful panel to discuss this morning. We have Ashley Edwards, who is the President and CEO of the Gulf Coast Business Council, who is working diligently to focus on issues along the Gulf Coast. We have Bill Hanna from the East Mississippi Business Development Corporation. Bill is President and CEO, and in his time there over the last couple of years has really begun to focus on how the area in East Mississippi can all work together to make things happen. Brenda Latham at the Golden Triangle Development Link is the Senior Vice President in charge of Economic Development, and the Golden Triangle has been really an area that has long been looked to as how you work together with all of those different counties, all of the different resources to make things happen, and particularly from a workforce development standpoint is going to give us some really insight into what's happening there. And then Michael Philpot is probably our newest members on the panel, our newest person in the state. He just joined the Delta Council to head up the Delta Strong effort, which again is focusing on how the Delta can work together to make things happen. Our moderator this morning is Mary Swoope. She is the Executive Director of the Mississippi Economic Development Council. Our counterpart, we work very closely with Mary and all of the economic developer and chamber executives across the state of Mississippi, which she leads that organization in such a great manner, and we're glad that we are so lucky to have her in that role. And I'm excited about the panel, and I'm excited about having her moderate. And at this time, I'll turn it over to you, Mary.
Thank you, Scott. Due to time, we're going to kind of facilitate this in a different way to allow each one of our panelists to have an opportunity to discuss what their organization does. I've actually developed a specific question for each panelist. If we have time, we'll open the floor up or provide other questions. Mike, I'm going to start with the newest person to Mississippi here is Mike. Mike, I understand that Delta Strong has been making many visits to companies in the U.S. and Canada. What do you tell these companies Delta Strong is, and how do you sell them on your current and future workforce in your region?
Okay. Well, good morning to everyone. Pleasure to be here. I've been on board with Delta Council since June, so I've got it all figured out. And but since June, we've called on and met face-to-face with about 27 companies, 27 companies from Toronto to California and everywhere in between. And our focus, and I really wish I could take more credit for the structure of Delta Strong. It's simple, yet it's unique. And simple in the fact of we're just trying to get our story in front of the decision makers that are out there. We're focusing on those companies in the 50 to 250 employee range. We feel like that's a kind of a sweet spot for many communities in the Delta. But this was conceived about 2 years ago. Tom Gresham, our chairman, Stephanie Patton was on our board as well. They really were at the core of developing Delta Strong, focusing on the regional assets. And as everyone knows, together we are stronger. And so we're focusing on calling on those companies, telling the Delta story, working with each of the communities throughout the Delta, from south of Memphis down to Vicksburg over to I-55, and just telling that story. And that story is we're open for business. We've got assets, we've got resources. We were talking with the board earlier when I started, said we've got lots of empty buildings. That's a bad thing. We've got lots of empty buildings. That's a good thing. That means we have assets and we have product to sell. So we've taken a very laser approach, I think, to identifying these companies, seeking them out, understanding as much about them as we can on the front end, and then customizing our proposal to them as we talk about what it's like to do business in Mississippi. So the support we've gotten from the state, from MDA, all these groups, it's making our job a lot easier. But that's what we're focused on, is telling the story, talking about the availability of buildings, land, things that are in place, ready to go. And we can talk a little bit about workforce too, because we're very committed on the ACT and the Work Readies program. That's been a game changer for us.
I'm going to follow up with that. How has that been a game changer, ACT Work Keys, in the Delta region?
Well, because, and I explained to the board when I came to Delta Council, it's being in West Tennessee for 21 years, regional area, running a similar type program. We had the same challenges that we have here in Mississippi, and particularly in the rural areas, that availability, that perception of availability, and the reality of that and skill sets. So our community's embracing that, and Kerry Carlson from Greenville's here. He's kind of the grand wizard. If you want to know more about it, you need to seek Kerry out. But it's able to articulate that we've already tested over 10,000 people, from high school students into adults. We've identified different classifications based on this national program, and it's been very impressive. It's kind of taken the concern, if you will, when we meet with these companies about workforce. So we're saying we've already tested 10,000 people, and these are the different classifications from bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And we met with one corporate CEO, and he looked at us after we made the presentation. He says, well, you've done our homework for us. We know we've got these classifications of these type of workers. So it's been a game changer.
Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Brenda, I feel everyone here knows about the Golden Triangle Link and how it works as a regional organization. But what impact has the link had on workforce education, training, development in the region, and what does the future of workforce training look like in the Golden Triangle?
Well, Mary, a few years ago, we realized that we have the Center for Manufacturing Technology Excellence at East Mississippi Community College, and it is doing a great job. However, we're limited by space. So the link set out to find and fund a new center, which we call the Communiversity, and CMT calls it CMTE2. But this facility will reach down and help us to begin to educate our babies and bring it all the way up through the workforce itself. We are building a $42 million facility that is a little under 146,000 square feet. We started out planning for 15 training bays, and we were able to up it to 25 training bays. We'll have 15 classrooms, and we are also developing new curriculum because nothing stays the same. Therefore, the community college is working to get curriculum approved for the future. And we're also going to have an interactive museum, so to speak, in the lobby where we can bring our babies in and teach them about the things that are being made in the Golden Triangle and what it takes to be able to work in these facilities and to build helicopters or to make steel or to make engines, diesel engines. And we're also looking at it from the aspect that you got to have a pipeline in order to recruit. Recruitment is what we do, but in order to recruit, we got to prove that we've got people ready to go to work. A work-ready workforce is so important. And like Delta Council, we've been working with Work Keys for, when we went to EMCC to talk about it, they were like, oh, we've been doing that for 10 years. We just haven't done a whole lot to let people know that we're doing it, and that's what consultants are looking for now. They don't care how many people you got. They want to know how many people have been trained on Work Keys and how many have passed and where they fit in. So as far as the Communiversity goes, that was our baby. We went out and got each community to commit to funding it. The Clay County, Octavia County, and Lowndes County boards of supervisors all said yes. The state said yes, and the federal government said yes. So we know if all three of those groups said yes, it must be important.
That is a true feat to pull all those groups together. Okay, Bill, excuse me. Knowing that Meridian has always been on the forefront of economic development in the state, why is it important to pull together a regional group in East Mississippi, and what impact will this have on workforce training and education?
Always on the forefront of economic development, that's probably not correct. And it's really the reason why we're doing some of the things that we are doing, which is a couple of years ago, we started looking at our success rates for projects we were working, and we were selling things that people weren't buying. So we just decided to sell something different, and that's really kind of the catalyst for everything that we've done. We've got some great partners. I'm sitting here looking at Mississippi Power guys all around me. Our communities, we were selling Meridian in Lauderdale County, for me specifically. So when a prospect came, they were getting data that was representative of Meridian and Lauderdale County, when really what they were asking for was regional data. We're creating this region, so there's no data there for it, so we're having to create our own data, the regional stuff. So one thing led to another. Our region is Newt-Ishii in Newton County, Mid-Mississippi Development District, and it has 6 counties. Craig Hitt, Kemper County, and David Vowell at Neshoba County. And then we kind of claim Tom Williams, Meridian Airport Authority, and he's kind of a regional guy. And so that's kind of our region that we've established to get the data put together for. That led to, if we're going to present ourselves that way, we kind of need to know each other. And we had not necessarily been working with each other across county lines, so back in October of 2016, we began a, for lack of a better term, a committee of 100 type group that is made of business leaders across all 5 of these counties. And we started with 10 folks. We're up to about 87 today. That board meets quarterly. They add 15 or 20 people to that group each quarter. We have about 100 people or more that are interested in the group, that want to become part of the group. So as far as business leaders, it's really exciting to see them get excited when they come in. They all know each other. They've just never really worked with each other, focused on economic development. So that began back in October of 16. Our boards of supervisors have started meeting together. Our delegation, our legislative delegation, obviously is working together for our region. And we've had some job fair, local job fairs and stuff like that. But how that kind of gets back to today and workforce, when we're talking about career readiness certificates, and we talk about Meridian Community College as our local community college, graduating 3,000 folks with silver CRCs. And then we present, and we're not too proud to steal and copy from our neighbors either. So we, in our region, are 4 community colleges: East Mississippi Community College, East Central Community College, Meridian Community College, and Jones Junior College. So when you put the data from all of those together, you get 12,000 silver CRC holders. And so again, part of this is just driven by presenting ourselves accurately and giving the prospects the data that they're looking for.
Thank you. And a true story of how this is starting from the ground up, becoming a region. This hasn't, what, the past year, 2 years? Or?
Yes, we're probably 20. I moved to Meridian from Tupelo, so I've got kind of that heritage. We're probably 20 or 30 or 40 years behind all these other regions with all these successes that they have. But we're making headway quickly, and it's going to be a fun place to be.
Thank you. Last but not least, Ashley. Ashley, you come to this panel from a different perspective, representing a business council as well as an area of the state that depends a great deal on tourism. Can you give us a brief background on the Gulf Coast Business Council and how the council is working to address the brain drain or the millennial workforce in the region?
Well, sure. Thank you, Mary, for that question, and certainly want to thank our friends with MEC for having us here today. As you alluded to, the Gulf Coast Business Council is certainly a unique organization. We're in a very unique region on the coast. The coast is a unique region in Mississippi, certainly a unique culture and very unique communities along the coast. But we're an organization that really was created by and is led by the chief executives of business and industry across the coast in our 3 coastal counties. And so we go to work every day to make sure that we're identifying emerging economic issues on the coast, that we are framing the public policy discussions around those, and then convening the resources necessary to drive those outcomes and solutions. And one of the things that we spent a lot of time on in 2017, and actually worked with MEC a bit on with Scott, was this idea of brain drain in Mississippi, and more specifically on the coast. The coast, with its uniqueness, of course, our largest employment sectors on the coast is first and foremost government, with our large military bases, Keesler Air Force Base, the CB base, and then, of course, John C. Stennis Space Center in Hancock County. Government's actually our largest employment sector on the coast, followed closely by the tourism and hospitality sectors. And of course, manufacturing, production, industrial sector is also very important, with large employers like Ingalls Shipbuilding, Chevron, just to name a few. And let me just brag on our coastal economic developers for a second. Over the course of 2017, both Hancock and Jackson County actually were certified as work-ready communities, and Harrison County is currently in the process of that. So all 3 of our coastal counties are in the pipeline now to be certified as work-ready communities. And of course, that's important because it's a partnership between the economic developers and business and local industry to make that work. So we think that's a great thing for the coast. But in addition to that, we're sort of looking at the millennial workforce. And for those of you that have a lot of millennials in your company, this is a really unique group. The decisions that they make about where they're going to locate, where they're going to work, is sometimes driven by different metrics than maybe what we've seen historically. Now, of course, the great criticism is that the millennials show up and they want to be the CEO after about 2 weeks on the job. But it really goes to the old saying that community development precedes economic development. They're making decisions in large part based on community assets, quality of life. And given our proximity to markets like New Orleans, Mobile, certainly the coastal market, the beach market, we think that that's a real opportunity for the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And there's some very compelling research that's happening right now, not only about the millennial generation, but about the creative economy, folks that are in this creative class, as Richard Florida called them, and the wealth that's now being generated by that class. And for the first time, really, in history, they now are that population segment is now outpacing all other population segments in new wealth being generated. And that's due in large part to the entrepreneurial activity that occurs in that group. And so we really want to make sure that we're able to achieve a critical mass of that on the Gulf Coast. And that's centered in many cases around our downtown areas. It's centered in the areas with the quality of life amenities, with our tourism assets. And it's something that we continue to put a focus on. And Mary, if I can just take one additional second, I want to put a plug in for a new initiative here in Mississippi, which is the Skills Foundation of Mississippi. I'm serving on the board of directors for that group, and we actually have a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. And this new group, check it out online, Skills Foundation of Mississippi. It's really focused on workforce and specifically the supply and demand. Because we believe that if we can educate students, educate workers that are out looking to move up in the job market to the type of opportunities that are there, and then have a system that funnels those workers into training programs, the technical training programs, where there is a demand. We can start to close some of these gaps. And I think what we see across Mississippi are a lot of great workforce programs, but we still have this supply and demand issue, and that there are industries that have great demand and the supply of new workers hasn't risen to meet that demand yet. So we want to start in the community colleges and the universities. On the coast, we have great community colleges and, of course, the University of Southern Mississippi, great workforce training programs. But it's sort of taking that next step to fill the gap and make sure that we're putting it together so that when students are making their decisions about their careers, you have a virtual guidance counselor. It's a program called Get on the Grid, essentially a virtual guidance counselor that can demonstrate, here is the demand in the high-paying industries, and here's a specific training you need to go out and get a job in those industries, and here's the program. We'll set you up in the program, get you enrolled, get you through the program, and then get you out into the workforce and become a productive citizen. And so that's what we hope to achieve with the Skills Foundation. The Coast is very happy to be a part of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. One quick question for anyone that wants to answer this on the panel. And I think when we visit, all of us with site selectors, one of the things we're hearing over and over again is regionalism. We're going to come look at a region. But unfortunately, many people fear working together as a region. It may mean they lose their identity as their community, or they won't get a big piece of the pie. How do you address this concern in your area? And Bill, I think with you starting this now, probably could truly address that.
Well, again, I think a lack of success helps everything. And for what's good for Lauderdale County is good for our surrounding counties. What's good for our surrounding counties is good for Lauderdale County. It's real simple. This is not, revelations. This is just very basic, fundamental kind of understandings of a company is going to look at a region before they look at a community, and a company is going to hire people from the region, not only wherever they operate.
Anyone else?
Well, Mary, what we found is each community is unique, but when you put all of the assets and resources of all of the communities together, you have something that's really huge and that site selectors are really interested in. Even our federal government doesn't want to see one community. They want to see whatever they do, how is it benefiting the entire region. So I think regionalism is a really good thing, and we ended up with a regional organization just by the stars aligning and everything coming together to make us what we think is a great organization.
Well, when we're talking with companies in Toronto or LA or Chicago area, multi-million population, and then we're talking about a population of 15,000, 5,000, 25,000 in the county. It just makes so much sense to talk about the region because they're exactly right. They're going to hire from the region. Our commute time for 30 miles is much better than a 5-mile commute in LA or Toronto. So I think together we are stronger. But I think it is important not to lose the local identity, if you will. And it's so important for them to keep working their plan and focus on what they need to do, but then realize they've got assets and partners regionally that when we do work together, they'll actually have more opportunities to tell their story.
Thank you. And I believe our time is up. Cut off.